Call this meeting to order at 7:30. Start with the prayer and the pledge. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for us being here to gather together to do the will of the people of the city of Reading. Help us do it right. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our clerk is out, so I'll be taking notes. We're going to go a little slower than normal. We're going to start with the roll call. Mr. Powell.
Here.
Mr. Bronner.
Here.
Mr. Bishop.
Here.
Mr. Boehner.
Here.
Mr. Tomlin.
Here.
Mrs. Kroger.
Here.
Mrs. Edichico.
Here.
7 present. We have a quorum for business and a quorum for legislation. Next up, approval of minutes. Has everybody received a copy of the minutes from last meeting?
Yeah. I did not get a copy.
Did not get a copy. Do you want to wait to vote on this?
Yes, I'd rather wait the next meeting.
Any objections to that?
Nope.
Okay. Do you want this copy?
They were emailed after the night after the September 20th meeting.
Okay.
Pass that down to him, please.
If I got them, it might still be in my email. I have not.
Okay. So he's got my copy
Thank
and
you.
I have
All
an
right, I got
electronic
a
copy.
copy.
So we'll dispense with that until next meeting. Next up is audience asking participation. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak? Okay, so there's this long paragraph I'm supposed to read. I don't have a copy of it right here, but it boils down to this. State your name and your address, and you get 5 minutes. Floor is yours.
Hi, Don Likens, 8415 Reading Road. My family has owned a business in Reading for 62 years. 62 years. Third generation Likens will not be in Reading because of the lack of policing. I'm here tonight because the burglaries, the thefts are going unresolved, quite frankly. I mean, it's a mess. I brought a neighbor tonight, I asked her to come. Her house is on the other, is behind me. Their garage was broken into. She'll tell her story. The police are refusing to do fingerprints. Refusing to do fingerprints. There's been all kinds of other damage, criminal damage to automobiles. Won't do fingerprints. Mr. Ross knows about it. The mayor knows about it. I can't get answers. The chief won't call me back. Mr. Ross won't call me back. It's a mess. It's a mess. The mayor called me back one time after about 20 messages, and he hung up on me. I've had enough. I've had it. The police, the summary activity that the police give, the chief gives, it's a disaster. He doesn't tell the whole story. You don't know what crime. You don't know what crime is being committed. You have no statistics. They're hiding this data from us. But I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I'm doing a lot of open records requests, which, just so you know, government, they're skirting this. They are violating the sunshine laws, and I've had it with that. I'm telling you. You know, I'm going after Mr. Ross's emails. And he, by sunshine laws, he has to provide these things. And people, and so I want to start a community action committee where people can come to me with their problems about police or whatever, but mainly police, because people are afraid of being retaliated against. I've been retaliated against. Let me tell you. I'll get into that later. But there's no safety committee this year. I'd like to voice these to a safety committee, but Ms. Kroger won't hold a meeting. Hasn't held a meeting all year. So I'm going to have my own meetings, okay? We need to gather input from the community about the lack of policing. Now, I will tell you this. The police are very quick to respond. 911, boom, they're there. And I call them probably about 10 times a year myself over different actions. But it's the follow-up. It's the investigations. Dead. Fingerprinting, dead. Nothing. You have to beg them to do fingerprinting, and they still won't do it. I will tell you this. When Chief Snow was here, we had a bunch of thefts on our properties. And he was on it, buddy. He was on it. They were doing fingerprints. They walked the beat at night. You know, he was on it. I don't get this with this crew. I don't get it. I don't get it. I get nothing. I get nothing. They don't respond. They won't hold meetings with me. I've had it. I had an arson. April 1st, somebody set fire to one of my buildings deliberately. Couldn't get Patrick Ross to return my call. Wouldn't return my call. Barely returned an email after about 20 times on how to get the building inspection going and all that. I mean, it's evil what's going on here. 62 years my family have been in the city doing business, creating opportunities. I've had it. I want you to fund an independent investigation into the police department. I hear about you wanting traffic surveys on Galbraith Road. I think I heard one meeting and all. I want you to fund an independent investigation to go analyze the felony crimes that happen in our city that go unreported. And more importantly, go unsolved. Okay? There's lots of them. I myself have had about 15 felonies on my properties over the last 3 or 4 years. Not one arrest, not one indictment, nothing. Barely at one time they fingerprinted one time. I had to beg him to do that. I had to call on the lieutenant because the officer wouldn't fingerprint. Wouldn't. Refused. It was my own house. They kicked in the door of my own house, March 14th. And I asked the officer, do fingerprints. Let's see if we can. No, she wouldn't do it. I had to call the lieutenant in. He did it.
Okay, you've reached the 5 minutes. It sounds like there's more to go there.
I'll make a motion that we give him another 5 minutes.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Boehner to provide another 5 minutes to our guest. I need a second.
Second.
A second by Mr. Powell. Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries by voice. Okay, go ahead, please.
Thank you. The mayor thinks my accusations are false accusations. He told me that last Thursday. My accusations are false. And I think the police, they mean well, but for some reason they're in a stand down mode of investigations. They really are. I can't explain it. I don't know why. It's not just me. You'll hear from other people. 2020, they broke into one of my houses. They stole about $4,000 worth of stuff out of my tenant's garage, and they wouldn't do fingerprints. And that was 2020. And I sent Mr. Patrick and the chief an email the next week about that. Never heard back. I sent it to him the day I finally hear back from him 2 years later. And you know what? That same street, they're breaking in again. She lives on Burkhart. They broke into their garage and stole about $1,000 of this stuff. No fingerprints. The police won't do fingerprints. They won't investigate. They're quick to respond when you call them a 911, boom, they're there. And I appreciate that. Oh, I love that. You know, sometimes they have to be right there. But it's the follow-up. And they're not reporting this. And they're hiding it from you. And I don't get information out of it. I mean, but I'm using the law now. Here's what I've done. I've contacted the Attorney General's office. They've advised me what to do. And I'm doing it. And there's a court that I can take these grievances, these issues with lack of information from my government, I'll take it to court. There's a court on this, believe it or not. So the Attorney General's office is advising me on what to do, and I'm doing it. And one of the things that they said, and this is, I tell you, I hate to go down this route, the Department of Justice. I'm about ready to ask the Department of Justice to do an investigation into our police department, because something is happening where nothing's getting solved. No crimes are getting solved, and you're not hearing about it. And that's horrible. Again, 210 Burkhart in 2020, big theft, no fingerprints. 209 Marion Avenue in September of this year. They vandalized, they put sugar in gas tanks. I know those people, and I said, tell the police to do fingerprints on the they won't, the police wouldn't do fingerprints. Wouldn't do it. Refused to do it. Came up with some flimsy excuse. And I won't speak for her. She's got her own burglary thing but and my house was broken into. They really wouldn't do fingerprints. And it's still under investigation. My burglary, the guy kicked in my door and rummaged through my house. I got him on like 5 cameras. They won't arrest him. You know who it is. They've had 3 witnesses say we know 100% who. They won't arrest him. Horrible. That's probably gonna get. Well, I can't speak for the next level, but I want us. 62 years in this city. I deserve better. You would think 62 years. You think the safety service director would call me back? Won't even return the call. Barely returns an email. I have to send an email 4 or 5 times. I can't. I've asked for meetings about the safety of the city. Nothing. Crickets. I've had it. I'm not leaving. I'm gonna fix it. Promise. And I'm not here to pick on Patrick Ross, all night long. But 2020, I sent him this complaint about the police. They were fingerprints in this $4,000 theft right around the corner from my house. And they just ignore They just ignore it. Any questions? I think that's it for me.
Council have any questions?
I have questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Likens. Anyone else? Again, please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Robin Packer, as in Green Bay. Address is 238 Burkhardt Avenue. I just wanted to add on to what Mr. Likens said. There are a lot of Reading residents that feel the way he does. They just don't have the guts to get up and do what he's actually doing. So on his behalf, I do commend him for speaking up. But yes, our garage was burglarized about 3 weeks ago. And it is unfortunate because, my husband, all his tools were in there, and they happened to have gotten like about $2,000 worth of tools. One tool in particular was very sentimental to him. It was passed down from his grandfather. My husband has no kind of record. He's never, I don't even think he's ever even had a speeding ticket in his whole life. We've lived in Reading for 20 years. We don't feel safe anymore. We don't. And I do agree with the police coming all the time. Yes, they're there, but there's never no follow-up. And what I feel about this is when they came with the garage, when the police came, and my husband asked him, where are you? Because we also have a video of the man too. So in addition to the video of his face, I feel the fingerprints, because there's not a lot of people. You're gonna find maybe 3 fingerprints in that whole garage, okay? And so my husband said, can't you guys do fingerprints? Okay, well, the officer that came made him feel so uncomfortable and made him feel guilty for asking for fingerprints that the way they came up, oh, we'll go ahead and do it, but you're gonna have to move all these things out of here, made it like it was an inconvenience for him. So he just said, forget it, because he had to go to work. But just the whole way it went down, the way he was treated was wrong, was not respectful at all. And, nothing's been done with our garage either. So, and like I said, we have a video of the man, and, my husband was willing for the fingerprints, but like I said, by the time they got done with him, he felt guilty for even asking. He shouldn't be made to feel that way by our own police department. I do get the impression that they just don't care as much anymore. And I don't know if it's because we live in Lower Reading, you know, because we were always told we're the valley, so I guess we're not as important to the people that live up on the hill. I know they don't have probably the same amount of problems, but we're also a part of Reading too. You know, and our homes want to be included along with all the people up on the hill. So, but there is problems down here on the lower part of Reading, and we just want you all to please pay attention to that. And please follow up when we report burglaries, because they are truly happening. And that's all I have to say.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Any other speakers? Yes, please. Again, please state your name, address, and 5 minutes.
Sue Renderly, 160 Siebenthaler. I'm here to, well, a lot of the neighbors couldn't make it tonight, but we are not happy with no parking on either side of the street during school hours. We'd like to see maybe it go from one side of the street from like 7 to 9 and 2 to 4. It's just a big inconvenience for the neighbors. My family's been up there for over 57 years, and when OSHA was in their prime, they had parking on both sides of the street. There's only 2 buses that go down to the school, so it's definitely not a bus issue. But we would definitely like to see some type of compromise for this. And the lack of communication has been horrible. I've called Patrick, I've talked to Bill a couple times. There was no letter sent out to the neighbors. I saw the markings in the yard, called Patrick when I saw him, and he was checking into it, never heard back. And then the signs went up the next morning. It's just the communication has been horrible, and one side of the street has to have parking on it. It's just not fair. A lot of the neighbors have been up there 20, 30 years, and the school's been there for 2 months.
Anything further? Questions from council?
I could agree. I had 2 or 3 neighbors in my driveway last Monday. Both are not happy about the parking.
Right.
That Tuesday morning, next day I walked down the street at 7:30. The problem, as I expressed to school on Friday, is that the parents are speeding.
Yeah.
That all of Siebenthaler is a school zone. The sign right there at the beginning of the street. And very few people are doing 20 miles an hour unless they got to slow down for people in front of them. But in the morning, there's nobody there. They fly up that hill.
Yeah.
I understand that the no parking on the east side there. There's always been no parking on the west side.
Right.
But, and I did not have anything to do with the signs going up, even though other people are talking about Facebook. I haven't been to a council meeting in over a month because of COVID and other issues. But I have talked to the school about some of their issues with their parents, and they're going to address those. But I really think, Bo, if you, Patrick, and I did talk to the police chief, I saw him out, rethink that whole east side, because you can get 2 cars down Siebenthaler with parking on the east side.
Yeah. And then,
But you can't do it doing 40 miles an hour.
as soon as the signs went up, I was home that next morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. It was like a racetrack. Cars got up and down the streets when there was no parking
right,
on it.
right.
And the cars on the one side helped slow the traffic down. I mean, that's a big safety issue right there. And another thing maybe, I don't know if the city can line the street, because I've almost been hit a couple of times coming down, and I'm pretty over to the curb. The other cars coming up are like way over on the middle. And I'm not the only one that said that. A couple of neighbors have said that.
Yeah. Actually, though, something simple as the yellow line may solve that problem. I don't know that for a fact, but that may solve the problem. It may slow some people down. The traffic's not backed up or as bad as it was the first couple of days. It's really been solved by administration working with the school. Although the chief did bring up something, point out to me that they're still concerned by the fire chief about getting a fire truck down that street. And I said, well, if the fire truck's coming down the street, everybody needs to get the heck out of the way.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that's gonna be a problem. They drive down there all the time anyway. In their training sessions, I see them driving down there all different times a day.
Well, the radar sign is up on the street now, but it says speed limit 25.
Yeah.
So you might want to change that to 20 in the school zone,
Yeah,
just to slow them down, because even tonight, when I was coming up here, they were flying down the street still. Thank you.
Okay, Patrick, you had something?
I just want to give a little background, so why we did that. When the school first opened, and I witnessed it myself, especially at pickup, the parking, the street was backed up all the way to Hunt Road, out to Hunt Road. I received numerous calls from residents that were like, I can't even get to my driveway. Like, I can't get to my driveway. So, trying to look at solutions on how to get in the driveway, and having driven down there, you know, we noticed that there were only a few cars further down that were parked on the street. So the thought being was, if we can get those cars that are trying to get into the school all the way over into the curb lane, not block driveways, we would get all of that inbound traffic to the school off of, you know, to the roadway as far to the curb as possible, leaving 2 lanes where it could safely go. So if you're halfway down the street, but the cars are just sitting there stopped, you could easily go around those stopped cars waiting to get into the site and pull into your driveway. We were doing this in a way to help the residents. We were not doing this in a way to help the school. This was to help alleviate. And another thing we factored in was, we looked at the street and was like, well, every single driveway on Siebenthaler can probably fit 5 cars minimum, maybe a few that can't, but even more so, we're like, we didn't think that it was going to inconvenience the people there in such a way that, you know, one person said he had to park a car up on Dorian. I don't understand why, when you can fit 6 or 7. However, just this morning in our staff meeting, we have been continuing to look at the traffic flows. It's not something that we've stopped and we put the signs up and we're stop evaluating. The traffic, especially in the afternoon, is getting onto the site a lot better. Thankfully, I think several factors with the school changing many things as far as getting on there, kids doing afternoon activities. So we're not like saying we're gonna keep it up there. We were doing this to help everybody in the area. And if it's not needed, if the cars are getting onto the site, no problem in the afternoon especially, I have no bone to pick in the fight. You know, we'll remove the signs. There's nothing there, especially if there's not a traffic issue getting onto the site anymore. I just wanted to give a little background why we were responding to the residents there. We weren't responding, you know, to try to inconvenience the residents. So.
Well, I appreciate all that, Patrick, but one of the biggest complaints is the residents didn't know that no parking signs were gonna go up until they were up. One gentleman was parked there, got a ticket, $30 ticket, and complained to me, and I said, you're gonna have to go to the mayor's court and explain it. I can't tell you any more than that.
We were trying to react quickly to a situation where, you know, sometimes you can't do it right away. We were trying to react quickly to it was a bad traffic situation. I mean, I was up there and, you know, I turned on the Hunt Road and I was sitting right away for a while. So we were trying to react quickly to a situation to alleviate it. Now it's, you know, corrected itself, so that's good, and we can, you know.
Well, Duke didn't help at all at the beginning because they were screwing around with the telephone poles forever up there, and finally, once they cleared out, the
Yeah.
traffic on Hunt Road east of Siebenthaler solved itself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sir, go ahead.
How you doing? Sean McGinnis, 150 Siebenthaler Avenue. So we have the radar sign up in our yard today. Police chief came, and I get what you're saying, that, you know, it was a solution to a problem, but your solution to our problem made it harder for the residents down near the school. So in one aspect, you know, and what I've been told too is that the school had made concessions to figure out how to speed up drop-off, pickup, which has been great. But your solution has caused more problems for the residents versus you saying that it was helping the residents. So it's actually caused us more headaches of having to jostle cars back and forth, because if you've really driven down there, you will notice that most of those driveways cannot fit 5, 6 cars. They fit maybe 1 or 2 cars unless the resident has widened their driveway. Our driveway can fit 1 or 2 cars, you know, back to back, like butt in, okay? So if we have 3 or 4 drivers in the household, we now have to go in and figure out a driving and rotation of car schedule because we can't park on the street. Now, obviously, there can be some sort of compromise, but it can't happen with someone who doesn't know what really is going on. It should be done with the residents on Siebenthaler, especially the ones that are below the hill. Secondly, it should be done with the school in conjunction, so we can all compromise together on the easiest solution, which sounds like and looks like at this point, the school has done a pretty decent job of getting the flow of traffic under control. Yep. So the next thing now is we should revisit, okay, these signs.
I just said we were
You
going
know,
to do
I know, but, you know, just restating, I get my time here, so I'm just saying that we need to revisit the signs. We need to revisit maybe some of the, you know, the speeding, because it's still going on. And it's not just school time. It's if there's activities that go on after school, you know, even, I think like 5:30, you know, before I was coming here. People, well, I don't know what's going on down there. I don't know that basketball or dance. I don't know what's going on down there, but people are coming picking up kids, and it's still an issue. And like my wife said, it, you know, my stepchildren went down there. It wasn't an issue when Olsh was there. Okay, it's not. You know, it's an issue maybe because there's more students now, but the issue is that you've made it an inconvenience to us, and now we're just looking for a way to kind of get it back or solve a problem now for the residents. The problem was solved for the parents that don't live. The problem was solved for the people who don't live in Reading, the people who come and drop their kids off at the school. You created a resident problem with the street signs. So now we're just saying, let's figure out a way, all right, to rectify this so that there's easy flow of traffic for the school, and then, you know, for us, because we're not gonna pay the money to figure out how to widen a driveway that we don't need to widen because of these signs, because that's the issue. So, thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And Sean, while you're here, as Patrick tried to state, we responded to an immediate safety issue. You know, the safety issue is still being monitored. When the safety issue's gone, the signs will be gone.
Yeah,
You know,
more of like, let's figure out the next step.
And it should happen very, very soon. You know, I talked to Sue twice. I messaged back and forth with Scotty Elfers for a couple hours. I talked to Kenny Hinkin twice. I talked to Angie Lattar, talked to Dave Lattar. I do return the calls. The calls were made. And, you know, I try to tell people when Patrick makes a call on mine and his behalf, we consider that our call. You know, I also consider that for Patrick. I explained Patrick's situation. I also told everybody, you know, as soon as the safety issues, as soon as my fire chief and police chief and Chief Public Works say safety issues have been solved and we can get ambulances there and fire trucks and police vehicles when we have to, they'll go down. And from what we discussed this morning, they should be down very soon. So we are sorry for any inconvenience. Again, as Patrick said, we don't sit here at City Hall and think about who we can upset this week. We responded to calls. It was an immediate safety issue. We got the signs as quickly as we could to alleviate the safety issues, because on the first couple days, we couldn't have gotten ambulances down there, couldn't have gotten fire trucks. They're up. The safety issue seems to be solved. And once again, I asked again this morning at staff meeting.
But we weren't the ones in control of the flow of traffic of parents. It sounds like the school didn't have a decent enough plan right away, and it sounds like they got a great plan now. So
Well, if I could finish. With all of our schools, you know, even schools that have been there, Hilltop was there, 60 years? Central School was there close to 100 years. The first week or two of school, there were traffic issues at all of them. So we try to be patient, but we also, our first and foremost responsibility is safety. We're responding to safety. I think I told Scotty Elfers County, I don't know if I told you, Sue, 4, 5, 6 days ago, I felt that the signs would be gone very soon. And sure enough, you know, today I said, well, we're going to wait. You know, I'm going to wait till police chief, fire chief, chief public works tell me they're good with it. And Patrick depends on the same information. So we're sorry. Well, come on, you can.
Well, the school, the first day, the first week they were open, they only had 1 lane of traffic coming around the school.
If you don't mind, please coming up to the microphone. That way we can hear you.
Because while she comes up, I'll say this too. We help solve the school's traffic problems. You know, Patrick was up there several days, fire chief was up there, police chief was up there, I was up there, Public Works was up there. So we helped solve those problems. We worked with the school to help them solve that.
The first couple days they were open, they only had one lane of traffic in picking the kids up. And they had the teachers parking in the main parking lot where the church, you would go into the church. I suggested they do what Olsh did, have the teachers park in the back around the circle, and now I think they have 4 lanes of traffic going in there. So they've solved a lot of it, and you guys have helped them. But we're just asking for the signs.
And
I know they will.
Very soon, very soon.
Thank you.
My name's Deacon Mike Muse. I'm the Director of School Operations for Cincinnati Class School. So to give a little bit of background, I'm the culprit who called the city to ask for those signs. I'm the guy that's standing up at the front taking the names of all the 290 cars that are coming into our school. We have tried diligently with the 52 school districts that have sent kids to our school to send busing. We have 3 buses that might have a half a dozen kids on them. My understanding is that when Olsh was in operation, they had a significant number more buses. We don't have that blessing. We have kids that are coming from New Richmond, Wilmington, Hamilton, Harrison. They just flat won't come. Even Loveland won't come. So 290 cars, and yes, you are correct. Very first day, we had one line coming in, and we had an hour and 20-minute dismissal. We are now down to, on days that we do not have Taekwondo, because we have 104 kids Taekwondoing, we're able to get all those cars out in about 15 minutes. So the reason I asked for those series of signs, and Patrick, if I'm not mistaken, I think I asked for about 100 feet of sign to go up the road there, because there are a couple cars that are right at the end going into the cul-de-sac, and that cul-de-sac, going into that cul-de-sac does choke down. The rest of the road going up is much wider than when it goes into the cul-de-sac, and when you're trying to get a bus or 2 cars to go past when there's a car parked there, you cannot do it, okay? Now, here's what I would recommend. We have told our parents time and time and time again, this is a residential subdivision. This is not a NASCAR track. So if it gets to the point where we need to stage police out there to send the message that this is not a NASCAR track, that is 20, 25 miles an hour, I'm all for that. But, and I am all for eventually pulling those signs at the end of the street, but you know, if we can have first thing in the morning from 7:20 to 8 o'clock, that section at the very end free, and then from, 3 o'clock to 3:30, that section free, it just, what it'll do, it'll keep that, it'll keep Siebenthaler from backing up and having any potential safety issues. Like I said, we're getting the cars out of there, and maybe a few cars on Siebenthaler where I'm taking names down, but we're lining cars 3 wide, and I'm pushing out 290 cars in 15 to 20 minutes. So I just wanted to give you a perspective from the school side, and by all means, we want to be good neighbors with the folks on Siebenthaler. I know our headmaster, Michael Rose, did send a letter at our very beginning when we did have the train wreck of the first couple days of dismissal. We do apologize to you folks and to the city, but we do want to work with the folks in our street and the city to try to make this equitable, but the key of it is we need to get cars out of that place in a safe manner and not block the street. But I just wanted to give our perspective, and I thank you guys and the council.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
I have a question. How long is that the choke point where it gets narrower? Is it 1 house, 2 houses? 100 feet.
It's hard to see. I'm looking at an aerial right now.
But that's about 2 or 3 houses.
Okay.
You know, another thing for me and to Sue and to Scotty Elfers and to Latires and you know, to all of you, we appreciate your input, you know, and we listen. So, you know, we respond as quickly as we can. And, you know, please keep calling as time goes by. I will tell you this, you know, the no parking signs head down the hill into the school, maybe 15, 20 years ago, and Bob Boehner should remember some of this, you know, there was a resident named Ruth Bush, and there was parking on both sides. And Ruth lived part of the way heading down the hill towards the school. She was a member of Kiwanis. One of our council members was a member of Kiwanis, so was my wife and I. Ruth said it was a racetrack then with cars parked on both sides. Every street in Reading, we get complaints of speeding, every one. You know, I tell people if I get to knock on doors, if I get one question, you know, people are in a hurry, I ask, do you have any complaints? Speeding, Sanborn Court, every street in Reading. But anyway, Ruth, it was a racetrack, and her complaint was she couldn't see the cars coming down that hill due to the parked cars. So that's when that became no parking. But that was a racetrack, what, 15, 20 years ago when there was parking both sides. You know, studies do say as you widen the street and open it up, it can encourage more speeding, but I don't think it'll go away. You know, we have troubles everywhere, and we'll respond to those as best as we can, but we appreciate the calls. You know, we listen, we respond as best we can, and once again, you know, my promise to all of you, when each safety official here tells me that they can do their jobs, those signs will be removed. So.
Somebody did get pulled over last night up there too, just FYI. Someone was pulled over. It was in our report this morning. He said we did pull somebody over, I think right around Dorian.
I've also let the chief know that there's one or two quad runners running around at night. Still have golf carts going up there at night without any lights on. I don't know if these people have a death wish or what, but it's a recipe for disaster when somebody's doing 40 to 50 miles an hour and it's dark and you can't see someone coming the other way. But
Do we need a couple of speed humps?
Well, you know something, one of the things we found with speed humps is heading downhill, down a grade, they're definitely recommended against, you know, because we looked into them at Bolser. So, you know, those were a safety issue then. You know something, we'll look into them everywhere. You know, it's a matter of money, and it's a matter of where you can. Heading downhill, Mark, we were told they wouldn't be good, so. And hey, that isn't to say we can't bring that topic up again, but that was the safety study at that time.
You want to say a speed limit is a limit.
Maybe those rumble strips. What about those across the road?
Well, people are mad on Thornridge that they have to slow down to like 10 miles an hour.
yeah,
They're like,
Parents are
I
happy.
can't go the speed limit. I will say 25 is the speed limit, not like you have to go 25 just because you're allowed to, especially in residential streets. I mean, I grew up in the valley, and if you're going 25 down West Vine Street or Pearl or Pike, that's going to feel like 50 miles an hour on those streets.
Yeah, we get those going down Second Street Alley.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Ready?
My name is James Shelton. I'm at 2401 Carroll Drive, so the other end of Siebenthaler than everybody else. One thing I've noticed is that the school did a great job after the first week to clear traffic coming into the property. The biggest problem that I've had is traffic coming out of the property. I know they can't do anything about Hunt Road, but as the traffic is cleared in one direction, it still backs up a lot in the other direction. So I don't know if maybe a solution is to have someone directing traffic at 2 times of the day on Hunt Road so that we can alleviate some of the amount of cars that are on Siebenthaler that are, because sometimes it does get backed up all the way from Hunt, almost all the way down the hill. So, and again, it's only for 20 minutes twice a day, so it's not a huge deal. But that's been my biggest problem living further up the street is trying to get out of the driveway in the morning to go to work. Most of the time, the parents are pretty good about letting us out, but sometimes you are sitting there for 5 minutes or so trying to get off.
you know, that's really gonna be hard because where they're drawing the students from, most of them, I shouldn't say most of them, but a large percentage is coming down Hunt Road from Blue Ash, or they're coming down Furman Road from Cross County. They're not coming down Thornridge because that runs them into other school traffic. So most of them are turning left, or a lot of them are turning left. And I don't know what you do there to
Well, they
make
can't
that go any quicker.
They can't get back onto Hunt Road. So once they're on Siemens-Arnold, they've already dropped off or they've already picked up,
Right.
and they're trying to get back to the highway
Right,
to go home.
right.
Sometimes, you know, with just the regular traffic up and down Hunt, you can
Right.
get one car out of there every minute or so, so that kind of backs everything up. You know, a minute's not that long, but when you're just sitting in your car, it feels a little bit longer. But, so I don't know if maybe, sometimes I know M&D has a sheriff out there directing traffic, or if that's I know it's an extra expense that no one wants to pay, but I don't know if even a school official or someone, I don't know, a community member, the volunteers could, you know, just let 5 cars go at once or something, and then let the rest of the traffic on Hunt go. Sorry.
Well, I will say one thing, though. I've never had a problem getting on my driveway. I live right next door to you. It's backed up well past my house to leave in the morning, and someone always lets me out. So, I mean, all the parents aren't these madcap drivers. There are some decent people in that group
Yeah,
that
and like I
let you
said,
out.
most of the time, I mean, most of the time someone does let you out,
Right.
but
I hear what
sometimes
you're saying, though.
they don't, you know.
Yeah,
There's
And
traffic
it's
on
not
Hunt,
that-
there's traffic on Hunt Road. It keeps people from turning left or right.
So if the idea is to keep traffic moving or to clear traffic off of Siebenthaler as you know, fast as possible or whatever, that might be an option or.
well, the only good thing there is once people start realizing that those silly roundabouts up there are not the answer, they're all gonna figure out better ways to get there.
Well, I mean, every study says you're wrong, but I don't know,
Right
we
ahead.
can't do much about blue ash, so I don't know why we're gonna talk about that. The other thing I would like to say is you can probably tell from all the comments tonight that people in Reading are passionate about being heard and giving in input and getting input from council. So I did notice that on the agenda tonight, we have the 2 bills about ICRC and the other company, and I understand there's some people here talking to us tonight about both. But I was asking if we could please not use an emergency clause to pass those tonight, if we can let those go another week at least, so that community members can hear the proposals and have input on them. That's Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, I think they're both set for first reading tonight.
Well, one's the second reading, one's the first reading.
Okay.
Okay, so are you doing audience participation?
Nope.
Or are you presenting? Okay, before we go to presenters, which, stay there because I don't know if anybody else wants to speak. Does anyone else in the audience wish to say a word or two in under 5 minutes? All right, seeing none, moving on to guest speakers. And that, we're gonna start, that's right, reading of communications, but the one communication that we received, I think she's going to actually read. Am I right about that? Okay. So since there are no other communications to read, we'll just have our representative here from the Cincinnati Classical Academy step up, state your name, and do your reading.
All right, my name's Kim Halk, and I live on Julie Terrace, and I am the office manager at Cincinnati Classical Academy. We would like to happily extend an invitation to the Reading community to join us, and we honor those who have currently and are who have and currently are devoting their lives to these worthy ideas through service through our armed forces. Classical, as we call ourselves, will host Veterans Day ceremony on November 10th at 1 p.m. The ceremony will take place in our gym. We would like to invite the community. I've included in this letter a link. We are asking for RSVP so we don't go over our capacity, so we stay within fire code. We ask that you place it on your website. I would also like to introduce our keynote speaker. He is a retired Army captain, and so I'll let him introduce himself just so you have an idea of what we're representing and how he came about to help us and help this celebration for this community.
Yeah, my name is Tim Wechter. I'm a graduate of Xavier University ROTC. I was commissioned an officer in the Army in January of 1969, and by November I was in combat in Vietnam. I have experience putting on ceremonies for veterans at 2 local high schools where we have over 200 veterans attend. So when asked to help plan this event at CCA, I was more than happy to do that. I think part of my duty in making it back home from Vietnam is to honor our fellow veterans and make sure that people don't forget. what was done for them. So I will speak just for a couple minutes to the kids. As important as the day is to veterans, for me, it's more so that these young children get the message that what has been sacrificed for them for many years, so that they have the ability to go to a school like CCA, get a great education, and do what they want to do in life. Make sure that they realize that. So that'll be kind of the theme of the few minutes I take. Can't go too many minutes longer with younger ones like that. You lose them pretty quick, but hopefully they'll get the message, and hopefully a lot of the community veterans will be able to attend. I think they'd really enjoy it. There's music and honoring of veterans for the day. So any questions from anybody?
What time and again, and what day? November 10th, did Kim
Yes,
say?
10 November at 1 o'clock.
Our Chief Public Works is a Vietnam veteran, so try to get you to meet him. And thank you for your
Oh,
service.
thanks.
Thank you. We had quite a few Reading young men that
I know.
went through that.
Kim, I'll try to get there. I don't know at this point whether I can make it or not.
We would like to, if possible, if you could put the information on the City of Reading's website.
Absolutely, Patrick.
For us, and, Bo, if I can hand you.
Yes,
that,
oh, absolutely.
all the information.
Yeah, good seeing you
I'm sorry,
again.
I thought it, good seeing you too.
I got to coach Kim's son, a fine young man. Those were good old days, too. I was a little bit quicker back in.
Do you have a link on your website?
Yes, there is a link on our website, and all the information is
That's
right
right.
on that. Did I give you a sheet?
I got the sheet, but I just wondered,
Yes, and then when you go onto, I'm sorry, when you go onto the website, you'll include your name, which part of the armed services you were in, or who you're representing, and how many people plan to attend with your party, just so we can make sure we sufficiently take care of everyone who's there. But we look forward to continuing serving the community, and thank you for your support, and we'll work hard with the community. I've been a member here for 35 years, so my stewardship is here. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kim.
While you're here, you know, you bring back some of the greatest memories here. Blue Ash, for many years, had an awesome Veterans Day ceremony. But what made it even more awesome for us, our American Legion Band, you know, formed in, 1947, I think, maybe 1948, right after World War II, one of the most awesome bands ever, filled with veterans. Wish I could bring them back. You know, they make your hair stand up on your arms. They were
Well, we look forward to you coming in here and the children sing.
awesome. Yeah.
Thank
we'll be
you.
there. All right.
Thank you
you
for
for
your
the
time.
invitation.
That same day in the morning at Moeller High School, we're going to have a Veterans Day ceremony, and we have a 4-star Air Force female general coming in to speak to the men of Moeller. So anyone interested in coming, everybody's welcome.
And I believe the next day, St. Peter and Paul Academy probably has a mass. So anyway, just to get them all in, yes.
Yep, thanks.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you.
I make a motion that we move item 2 under guest speakers to the agenda for our meeting on October the 18th.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Powell and a second by Mr. Boehner to move item 2 under guest speakers on today's agenda to the next regular meeting on the 18th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry, taking notes. It takes a little longer when I'm taking the notes. All right. Next up, Mr. Newman, ICRC.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Newman. I'm the Executive Director with the ICRC. With me tonight is Jason Dudley, who's going to hand out a few papers for you to take a look at. Jason's our production manager. Some of you may know him from some of the Zoom calls that we helped out on. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. The ICRC, if you don't know it, is a nonprofit media organization with a team of 6 full-time employees. I'm going to apologize up front if I get a little nostalgic. I've been with the ICRC since 1994, and one of my first jobs was recording Reading City Council meetings. So I've been doing events in the city for a long time and have a lot of vested interest in this city. Let me first say, let me backtrack. You probably guessed I'm here to address the recent discussion that's been going on with city council members regarding the city of Reading ending its long-standing membership with the ICRC and contracting with a for-profit, internet-based production company to do video production services. While I am unaware of how far the discussion has progressed, I feel it's important that I am here to speak to you tonight. Let me first say, I understand and appreciate the city is exploring its options as a means of being fiscally responsible. But I feel it's also important that council also consider what services and benefits that the city and the residents would no longer have access to if the city left the ICRC. I also feel it's important that you're reminded of the valuable resources that are already available to the city. And some of you may not even be aware of that, so I wanted to go over some of that information with you. So let me start there. So in the past couple weeks, I've sent a couple emails out with links that showcase different types of videos that the ICRC can produce for the city. I hope you were able to take some time and take a look at some of those videos. You probably noticed that several of those videos were produced for the city and included a lot of Reading content, such as the Reading Police Department National Night Out video that we did, the Reading Settlement Day Dinner, which we were just back at this past weekend to cover, the Memorial Day Parade ceremony, which we've done for years and years, every year, the Reading Doughboy documentary that we recently done in the last couple of years, which has got a lot of good publicity. A lot of folks were really happy and pleased with that video that we did. The Reading Meet the Candidates for Council that we had at the ICRC studio, which several of you here came out and recorded your 5-minute speech. So we were glad to see participation from Reading on that. And of course, there was a clip of some Reading football. So you were also able to view some clips from other ICRC communities that showcase examples of additional videos that we can produce for the city. This includes community engagement videos, magazine shows, community updates, podcasts, and informational shows about city services. Keep in mind that there is no additional cost associated with any of these videos or any other productions that the ICRC can create for the city. One other thing about those videos that we produced, I hope that you noticed the level of professionalism and the care that went into every one of those videos. Let me backtrack briefly and talk about the services and benefits that the city and the residents will no longer receive if Reading were to end its relationship with the ICRC. First and foremost, residents will no longer be able to watch any Reading programming on either of the Spectrum or Alta Fiber cable channels. This, of course, includes Reading City Council meetings, along with all of the other videos I've talked about. ICRC is the only group that has the infrastructure in place to transmit local content to those cable TV providers. While it's true so many people do get their media from the internet, I still believe that residents can benefit from watching local programming on the access or on the community channels on both Alta Fiber and Charter. It's also important to remember that the franchise fees come directly from those cable subscribers. Satellite streaming options do not pay into the franchise fees that the city receives. Another benefit that the city would lose out on is public access. ICRC provides free training and assistance to citizens and organizations who want to produce and submit their own shows for playback on the ICRC channels. St. John United Church of Christ in Reading has been producing and submitting their Sunday service every week for playback on the channels since before 2006. Additionally, we've been assisting Alan Retberg, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with. He's been helping to produce coverage of monthly talks that the Historical Society hosts. Alan records the talks with the equipment that we provide him. We edit the coverage, and then we play those back on our channels. We also provide him links for social media. Another Reading community event that ICRC has been covering annually since 1997, the God Flag and Country Competition, takes place at the Fraternal Order of Eagles on Benson Street. You're all aware of it. I've had the great pleasure of working with gentlemen like Wayne Poe, Rick Sutton, Bill Waller over many years. With Bill's unfortunate passing in 2020, it's been a couple years since we've covered that event, but we plan to reconnect with the Eagles after next year to start covering that event again. ICRC has been televising Blue Devil sports for 2.5 decades, probably longer. We've covered football, soccer, volleyball, basketball, baseball, bowling, and even a track meet. Over that time, we've developed a great working relationship with many Reading athletic directors and coaches, including Coach Tommen. ICRC's first venture into televising playoff football happened in the year 2000, courtesy of Coach Ken Miner and his Blue Devil squad. Hopefully a lot of you remember the hook and ladder play. Centerville High School, I was in the truck covering that. We televised every one of those playoff games for the Reading. No cost to the city or the school. We also work with schools to encourage student involvement on productions and offer internships and opportunities for community service. Right now, we're working with the schools to produce a documentary for their 100th anniversary. I don't know what level of video coverage you will receive for Reading Community Schools from a production company, but I'd be willing to wager it would not be anywhere near the quantity or the quality that ICRC would continue to provide. Again, no cost to the city. ICRC has a vested interest in Reading, as we do with all of our communities. We want to continue being the city's media partner in whatever we can do. We can produce any of the media formats that I've talked about, literally anything you can think of remotely related to audio, video, multimedia. We can help you get that done. Even if you call us on the day of an event, we will do everything we can to make sure it's covered. And at the risk of sounding like a broken record, there's no additional cost to the city for that. Moving forward, I would ask that council pick someone to be a liaison to the ICRC, someone we can communicate with on an ongoing basis and discuss ideas for content that will benefit the city and the community. This would help us expand our current services and truly work hand in hand with the city's government and support Reading in any way we can. As a close, I would like to circle back to the numbers and emphasize the value that we can provide to the community. Over the past 3 years, ICRC has covered more than 129 events for the city of Reading. If you were to contract these services individually at market value, the total cost would be more than $339,000. That's about double what the city has contributed over that same time period. Attached in the packet that you have has a sheet that goes in more depth about those numbers. As a reminder, our income is tied to your income. As franchise fees decrease, so does your contribution to the ICRC. I would think there's no chance for a nonprofit company decreasing their costs over time. So, thank you for letting me speak and letting me be here. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Council, any questions?
I remember when Tim started the ICRC, I was on the board for close to 30 years, over 30 years as treasurer. They do a really good job, not just at council chambers, but I think you talk to the students and the people of the Historical Society, the people at the parade, they all comment about how good the people are that come down and do the video. So I appreciate everything you guys have done.
We're glad we can do it. We've had a lot of enjoyment working with Alan recently, with these Historical Society events. So, matter of fact, Jason just gave me this right before we got here. It's one of the, I guess, a newsletter from 2020 talking about the Doughboy project that we did. And all of, telling folks how they can follow their Facebook page and watch the programs on ICRC-TV, on the ICRC-TV website. So, we enjoy doing things for the community, for all of our communities. Again, we're a nonprofit. We're not we're not making a profit. Everything we do because we want to make sure the cities know that we're a resource. So that's why if you call us on the day of an event, we'll do our best to get there to cover it or help you out in any way. So, thank you.
Comment if I can as well? Go ahead, you go first.
Thanks, Tim. I actually was trained as one of your videographers back in the 1970s, was it? I think, a long time ago, when they first
Before
started.
my
it?
time, but
Whenever it was
yeah.
first started, and you guys have done a good job over the years. I think the issue is over the years we've talked more and more about reducing cost in the city and what the city council votes to pay for. And I think the issue is probably that we're paying for a buffet and we're light eaters. And I don't think we're gonna become heavy eaters at any point in time, really. And I know these other services are being provided to organizations in the city. We're looking at it, I guess, our committee from a standpoint of the cost to the city of the service that we're needing for council and for the city itself. And so, yeah, I appreciate your input and the work over the years.
You're welcome. Yeah, we're just here to make sure that you guys, are aware of the things that we can offer. There was some talk about, with just that. Well, again, that's why I'm here. I want to make sure that you know the types of videos that we can provide, the coverage, our attitude, our willingness to help out the city. That's why we're here, and we appreciate the fact that Reading has been a member of the ICRC for this long. So thank you for that.
And I'll pretty much echo what Mark says as well, Tim. If we ever leave ICRC, it won't be due to the lack of your effort or your service to our community, because it has been awesome, and we appreciate it. I appreciate it. I bet I've been 6-8 years asking council to steer away from ICRC strictly for the money. In our community, $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year adds up. I'll give you a couple of examples how things go over time. Before I became mayor, there was a full-time city clerk. Cost the city $56,000 a year in 2003. I took it down to $15,000 2004. And as a matter of fact, the savings are over $40,000 a year. We're going to get close to that 20-year mark. That's $800,000. Same way with the city clerk. I think every mayor enjoyed a full-time city clerk. $56,000 a year in 2003. It was $15,000 in 2004. And quite honestly, we didn't miss a lot. But again, another 40,000 times 20 years, another 800,000, 1.6 million. That would pay cash for our new stadium and track. So the things, even a $20,000 savings now, is something that this council can't overlook. Now again, this to council, and Tim did bring up something important. I brought in a friend from St. John's United Church of Christ, I bet 5, 6, 7 years ago, and told her we were contemplating leaving ICRC then, strictly for the money. But between between St. John's and our Reading schools, we should give them a heads up there. But Mark was correct. It's a matter of the money, Tim, and every penny here counts. We'd like to improve a lot of things. One of the neatest statements that stuck with me, one of my first years as mayor, our fire chief would say, we provide the best possible city services with the resources we're given. And we've already heard some complaints tonight, things that don't happen because of resources we don't have, both in manpower and in equipment. As of just very recently here, we have body cameras and things like that, things that other communities have had for years. So if we do leave, I'll be one to thank ICRC for the rest of my life. You guys have been a vital service, and you're absolutely right. You've covered things well. You jump when we ask. Council's main consideration from my point of view is the money part of it, so that's me.
Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah, and you've been good to me, Tim. Now, I'll say
appreciate
that.
it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did we miss somebody on the agenda?
Yes, I believe so. I was supposed to present today, Hamilton County Planning and Development. It's following up from the last meeting 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so this is that resolution there.
Yes.
Okay, so, he's not on the agenda, but can I get a motion to put him on the agenda real quick?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Second.
So we have sorry, too many papers. Who made the motion?
This said Chico.
And it was Ms. Kroger. Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Go ahead.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I met many of you 2 weeks ago tonight. For those of you that I did not meet, my name is Luca Rednick. I'm an associate planner with Hamilton County Planning and Development. So good to see you all that I saw 2 weeks ago. Once again, I'm here just to speak about the Reconnecting Communities pilot discretionary grant program. It's a mouthful. So ultimately, RCP, as we call it, seeks to establish an enhanced community mobility through removing, retrofitting, or mitigating eligible transportation facilities. When I came here 2 weeks ago tonight, I was coming to let you all know that the county has been working alongside several jurisdictions, hopefully including Reading, on submitting an application for this. That deadline is next Thursday. And so as we are starting to move toward the back end of our schedule, we're hoping to receive support from all 5 of the jurisdictions that are included, hopefully, in this application. And just to reiterate, those 5 communities are, hopefully here in Reading, Arlington Heights, Lockland, Evendale, and Lincoln Heights. And so ultimately, the purpose of applying for this grant is to receive a planning grant, which can be used to conduct a planning study that will assess the issues that are created by these transportation facilities in the area, namely Interstate 75 and the several rail lines that are going through the area, and to identify solutions and their cost to these issues, and to envision what a greater connectivity within these communities and between these communities could mean for them in the future. So far, we've received letters of support from Lockland, Lincoln Heights, and Evendale, which we're very excited for since we're hoping to partner with them. We've also received additional letters of support from organizations that are not jurisdictions, and those include the Lockland School District, Alloy Development, the Connecting Active Communities Coalition, OKI, and the Mill Creek Alliance, and we're hoping for several more beyond that. Once again, I think I said this 2 weeks ago, but we're not asking for financial assistance from any of the jurisdictions that we're hoping to partner with here. Really what we're just asking for is a show of support from each of the jurisdictions so that we can move forward knowing that everyone is interested in trying to address some of these issues that have been created by the presence of Interstate 75 and all of these rail lines. And ultimately, passing a resolution of support, which I'm asking that you all do tonight, will not bind Reading to any further commitments. Really, it's just showing that you all are interested in collaborating with these other jurisdictions to try to address some of the problems that are present and to hopefully enhance the east-west connectivity and mobility that seems to be an issue often in these areas. So that's all I have prepared, but I'm glad to take any questions.
Who did you speak to in Lockland? You know, did you say Lockland supported this?
Yes, I spoke with Krista Bloom, so I have a letter from Krista Bloom showing support for this.
Okay. You know, I had spoken to Lockland's mayor and was adamantly opposed to any bridge entering into Lockland. But anyway, I'll double check with that and look at it again.
I mean, ultimately, the planning grant, you know, we're not going in with like, this is what the solution is. We're not doing that. We're identifying all possible alternatives and assessing what are the most feasible in terms of the financial cost, as well as what are the least disruptive for these communities. I mean, I know that there has been a bridge proposed, but I'm not saying, and I don't think anyone who's working on this application is saying that that will be the solution. I think there's a variety of different possibilities. Ultimately, it's just, can we get the funds to work on that?
Well, just the one other thing from me, since I was at a meeting, you know, and again, it was proposed as relief from people from the city of Reading being blocked by a train as it entered into Lockland. So I asked a simple question, could they tunnel under the track? And I was told bluntly, no. So that means a bridge over the top. Now again, as a matter of fact, it was even stated at the meeting, you know, why would we fund a study when we know the only solution for people from Reading to get relief from being stopped by a train, it's either a tunnel underneath, a bridge over the top, or remove the train track. And that would be a vital mistake for all of us as trains carry an incredible amount of goods. You know, they say when Russia invaded Ukraine, the first thing they blew up was the train tracks. You know, it's national security here. So we're not going to remove the tracks. But, so again, and look, I'm all for a good study. And I just know this too, it's I don't know. It concerns me, you know, that this country's $30 trillion in debt with people totally ignoring it. Totally ignoring it. And, you know, let's spend another, you know, X amount of dollars here, there, and everywhere. You know, I asked, you know, if I told them, look, if I felt it was going to help the city of Reading and just alleviate train traffic, I would come up with our own $100,000. You know, I said if it would help economic development and attract more businesses here, and yet, in my, 22 years of involvement, I haven't heard any, and you can all call Linda Fitzgerald of a business not locating here because of the train tracks. So anyway, I'm just being bluntly honest with all of you. It doesn't, you know, from the safety issues, you know, with mutual aid, you know, I was sitting next to Arlington's mayor at the meeting that we had. Spent a good half hour there. You know, we are Arlington Heights Fire Department, Police Department. The only place for this bridge to go is Columbia Avenue. So I want you all to picture this. We leave our station here. We go down Market Street to Columbia. We go Columbia on a bridge that would probably start at Caney Park. You know, it would eliminate a couple businesses. It winds into Shepherd Lane, and then we'd have to get to Arlington Heights. I think it'd be much quicker for us to go down to Galbraith and go Galbraith and come. So I didn't even see the safety impact. I'm all ears. You know, if somebody can tell me it would help safety, if it helped economic development, much less convenience. Because I told them, I bet I've spent an incredible amount of my life was spent at train tracks. You know, when the train track here in Reading, I grew up in between them. You know, again, we ran a business where we bought materials, furrows. I don't know if anybody remembers that, over on Springfield Pike, maulers. We banked at the First National Bank. We used the post office in Laughlin. We took a lot of things to Hirschberg's in Laughlin, as well as worked all over. You know, I've spent years at train track. I honestly wish they would have been gone a long time ago till I realized what they did for our country. But if somebody can show me, you know, that where it would be an advantage now, and how this bridge, we would lose businesses. So I don't know how we'd get back Cabot Drive unless there was immediate exit ramp, you know, in the morning you went over top the Mill Creek. It has its challenges. And again, I'm not against studies, and especially studies that wouldn't cost us a dime, which to me, I hesitate, because I think everything costs the American public here. There is no free money. We talked about that about 20 years ago in this chamber. Let's go after free money. And I think we determined somehow that no such thing as free money. So,
Bo, I have to disagree with you about the economic impact. I, for one, and there's many others like me, I do not use maulers. I don't use Laughlin Post Office for a lot of reasons, but I don't get on the highway in Laughlin. I go up Glendale Milford. I go to Blue Ash. I go to Sharonville, use the post office. I'm not going to sit, I got better things to do than sit in traffic. And, you know, I think the businesses want to relocate down here by the stadium that the port owns. They're going to take a good hard look at how that train impacts their people going to and from work, how their vehicle is going to get off the job site. I think that, you know, whatever we can do to alleviate that bottleneck there would be a plus. Now, you talked about, you know, if there's a fire or a police activity in Arlington Heights, why would our people go all the way to Columbia and try to go over that bridge? Why wouldn't they just get out and go up the road? I mean, there's no reason to do that.
And that eliminates the bridge, Bob, because that's what people do. They go to Galbraith or Glendale Milford.
Well, but the thing is, by doing that, though, that's affecting Laughlin's viability, and also creates, you know, in my case, I choose to go to Blue Ash or Sharonville. That costs me another 20 minutes to go to the post office. I personally don't think Laughlin Post Office should even be in operation. That's the worst post office in the country. They're the slowest people and the dumbest people I've ever been around. I won't go in that. I'll drive an hour out of my way instead of going over there. That's how much I hate that post office.
But Bob, again, in economic development, not a complaint about the railroad tracks.
Okay,
So
all
anyway,
right.
not one.
Just looking at it from a perspective, I personally believe that improving access to Interstate 75, which is one of the main north-south arteries in this country, would be vital to a development on the site. And having a train block the tracks for an hour, causing people to have to route around and go miles out of their way, I think it is. And whether somebody has said to you that, yeah, that's a holdup of economic development, one time they get held up by a train, it's going to be in the back of their head, whether they're saying it or not, that this is going to prevent me from getting to Interstate 75. That's, to me, that's a pretty big deal. Interstate access is huge.
And it
for
is.
development.
And we have Galbraith Road and Glendale Milford. It isn't like it's miles and miles. But anyway, you guys get to decide. Most people have figured out how to use Glendale Milford and Galbraith. They figured it out. But
I have to say, this is one I'm kind of on the fence about. I do agree, a bridge, I'm no expert, but it would wipe out a lot of businesses and residents. I don't see how it would work, but on the other hand, something does have to give. Obviously, the railroad companies aren't gonna work with us at all on this issue. And from an economic standpoint, I know, small businesses, especially in the Bridal District, are affected when there's trains stopped for hours on end, on Saturdays especially. And that does block people from getting into the city and the district. And if they're not from around here, which a lot of the shoppers are, they don't know to go to Galbraith or Glendale Milford. So possibly this just being a study, something they could look at could be easier access to those two ways around this. But yeah, I've kind of wavered on this a lot because there's definitely not an easy solution, but again, I guess that's why you do a study.
We don't want to assume any outcome, even though some things might be more obvious than others. I've never met any topic that's not worthy of discussion or further investigation or study. Although I'm not a big fan of studies because I think they're expensive and sometimes go nowhere. But if we got several communities involved in this, looking at this and willing to do this, and it's not costing money to do it on our end directly, then I think that it's definitely a problem we've had a lot of people experience. We have workarounds, but I think doing it kind of puts it to bed and says, this is the study, this is what it says. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the outcome of what we have to do, but at least it puts the subject matter in place, and we can move forward.
Well, it is a problem.
Right.
And the obvious solutions we've all looked at, and we're coming up with no answers.
Right.
I think it's incumbent upon us to look at it from a different perspective, and why not go down this road and get more information. We're talking 5 communities, not just us in Laughlin, 5 communities. So there may be other solutions to, majority of our problems that we haven't really explored yet.
Something none of us have been even thinking of.
Absolutely. If I could add in or respond to a few things. I'd absolutely think that, again, I know that a lot of people have proposed this bridge. I don't know about the feasibility of that, but that's what a planning study will do. It'll help us determine, one, what the cost of that would be. Would it even be worth it? What's the human cost? I can't tell you that right now because we haven't done the planning study. But I'm very confident there will be other alternatives offered aside from just a bridge, which already seems unpopular. But that's not the only solution, hopefully. Hopefully there's plenty of other solutions that we can find. In addition, doing a study like this, it can open up funds for additional opportunities to apply for grants. There are lots of opportunities that if you don't have hard data to explain why you are searching for money to solve an issue, it's hard to convince the federal government to give you that money. So this planning study would help the community of Reading, as well as all 5 of these jurisdictions, gain access to a significant pool of money. And I think one way or another, that money will be spent, regardless of the questions around fiscal stewardship, which I completely understand. I know that the federal government's going to be distributing that money one way or another, though. and I would like it to go to the residents here.
Very good. Anything else from council?
Could you give one example of something other than a bridge that might be looked into? Because a bridge from Canic Park to Shepherd Lane or 75, like you said, the human impact, the business impact, I think, you know, this council has looked at that before, and you know, it was a lot more than, you know, we would like to see happen to Reading, and more than the bridge would be worth, actually. So there's a lot of talk about the bridge, and you say there could be other opportunities. Is there one thing other than that you can see them studying? Is there any other way that you could improve the connectivity without the bridge?
Yeah, so even though it's a planning study, that does not mean it's focusing solely on infrastructure. I mean, it can just be, how do we get the railroads to the table and how do we work with them? I know that's been difficult in the past from anecdotal evidence, but
Yes.
we have reached out to Norfolk Southern, and they are interested in having conversations at the very least. So we're trying to involve as many partners as we can, because we recognize this is going to take a lot of people. But to more directly answer you, again, it can be something outside of infrastructure. So even if it's coming to some sort of agreement with those rail lines, again, I don't know if that's feasible. I don't know if that's going to happen. It's a possibility. In terms of other infrastructural opportunities, I'm not exactly sure. Unfortunately, I'm not a civil engineer. I'm sure I would have plenty of answers then. But ultimately, that is what the goal of a planning study is to identify what those could be.
Technically, no, unless council wishes to allow it. Anybody? Nope. Don't see any motion for it. Okay. All good?
Yes.
I
Very
make a
good.
motion that we go out of order and have the reading of the resolution.
All legislation?
No, just the resolution at this point.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Powell to change the order of business to allow for the reading of the resolution at this point.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Tomlin. This one's gonna be a roll call. Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Bronner,
No.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Boehner,
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger,
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
6 yes. So we're going to go out of order and read the resolution. And that resolution, the title reads this way. A resolution of support for the Reconnecting Communities Pilot, RCP, grant application by Hamilton County Planning and Development to secure funding for a planning study to identify ways and means of evaluating east to west mobility and connectivity problems in central Hamilton County.
I make a motion that we waive the third reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Powell and a second by Mr. Boehner to suspend the rule requiring the third reading. Roll call again. Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
No.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Boehner?
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger?
No.
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
So we have 5 yes. To suspend the rule, so that the rule is suspended?
No.
It's not, oh, that's right.
Takes
Wait,
6,
does it
doesn't it?
take 5 or 6?
I think it takes 5.
Takes 5 to
Does
suspend.
it take 5?
5 to suspend.
Give me a minute, I'll look it up. I'll move to adopt the
Hold
ordinance.
on, we're gonna check, but make sure we're not
Okay.
doing something we should not be.
I think we've never done that before.
2/3,
We're gonna try.
2/3.
that's enough. 71.4%.
Okay. So the rule is suspended. So we have a motion to adopt by Mr. Boehner,
Second?
a second by Mr. Powell, to adopt the resolution. Again, roll call. Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Bronner,
No.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Bronner. I'm sorry, Mr. Boehner, sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger,
No.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
So we have 5 yes. So the resolution carries. The resolution number is 2022-27R.
I make a motion that we go out of order and read ordinance number 2 for the evening.
I'll
So
second.
We have a motion by Mr. Powell and a second by Mrs. Edichico. Is Edichico, right?
Yes.
To go out of order and read, that's the one listed as number 2, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voice vote on the agenda. So ordinance number 2, which I'm gonna have to dig up. Give me a second, sorry. Not that one.
So, the Duke Energy one. This one.
Sorry, buried in a pile of paper. Here we go. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute easements and agreements on behalf of the city of Reading and declaring an emergency. This is the one for Duke Energy.
I'll make a motion, we suspend the rule requiring second and third reading.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules requiring the second and third reading by Mr. Boehner and seconded, was it Mrs. Kroger? All right, so we're going to do a roll call vote on that. Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Boehner?
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger?
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
7 yes, the rule is suspended.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Motion to adopt by Mrs. Kroger, second by,
Chico.
was that you again?
Yeah, that was
Are you throwing your voice? Sorry, Mrs. Edichico. Second by Mr. Powell. Again, roll call. Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Bronner,
Yes.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Boehner,
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger,
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
7 yes. So the ordinance is adopted, and that is going to be ordinance 2022-28.
Do what?
To sign it.
Yeah.
So that they can leave is what he.
Which, what do they want me to sign?
The stuff that the council just authorized, the easement and the agreement.
Yep, bring it up. Where's it at? Oh, well.
Can you come over here, Bill? It'll just be easier to come over here.
Musical chairs.
You don't want to hang around for a while?
Serve food and drink.
Give back the original.
Now we're gonna have to serve hot tea and cookies.
I can do my report first, if you want.
Oh,
One moment. So, okay, so
you can.
let me get the sense of council before we do anything else. Are we returning to regular order then?
I am finished, Mr. President.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. We're unshuffling the deck. All right. Moving on to administrative reports. Do you want to take a pass and let?
Yeah,
Patrick go?
no, I can.
Or just wanted to sign that and run? We'll give the mayor just a moment.
In more than one place?
No, just there, just 2 more signatures.
I'm sorry, 2 more?
Oh, then
Not on that document. I have 2
Tell you
Yeah,
what,
bring them on over.
Oh.
Yeah.
we're, I go out of order, but I don't want to shuffle the deck again.
Compensation agreement that's already signed.
I have no report.
This is active business happening.
Yeah. Government in action.
Your signature and Duke will sign following tomorrow, right here.
Get out the rubber stamp.
You're getting a crash course in being clerk tonight.
I've been clerk before, but,
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
I'm getting all the Acme rakes tonight. All right, Mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, we remain very, very busy here at City Hall. We remain very, very busy throughout our community. Just some events that have happened recently. Our Reading Bridal District had their annual Fall in Love event on Benson Street. You know, always a very nice event. You know, it takes a lot of time and effort and some money from our city to do events like that. But again, we love our Reading Bridal District and what they do for our city, and always a great event. That happened on September 21st. Also on September 21st, we had our business roundtable. It's meetings we have several times a year with our top 10 CEOs. This particular meeting was held at General Tool, and we found out that General Tool is celebrating their 75th year of business here in the city of Reading. An incredible business that has been wonderful for our community. The Kramer family has run that business since its beginning, and wonderful people, and wonderful to have them. Last weekend was one of the busiest I've ever seen in our community. We started out last Friday night, homecoming parade. Again, you know, it takes effort from the city anytime we have a parade. It was a nice parade, a long parade. We love it. Everybody had a good time, followed by a wonderful football game that was very well attended. I want to thank the Port Authority. I called them early last week and asked them if we could use the property that they own by the pool parking lot, because we knew that homecoming would be very crowded. Thankfully, they said yes. Max Kroger and Tyler Kroger helped park over 200 vehicles in that space. I don't know where they would have gone. So thanks to the Port Authority. That was a one-time only request here for now. Again, it's Port Authority property, and we try to honor them by staying off. But a wonderful night in our community, followed by a wonderful game, wonderful crowd, one of the best crowds in some time. Really nice. And anytime you get Reading Youth football involved, you get a neat turnout. But the following day, Reading Youth football was at our stadium. They filled that stadium for 8 hours or more during the day, and it's Reading Youth football, a wonderful organization. I think it's a little bit over 200 boys and girls they keep busy between football and cheerleading. You know, a volunteer organization does an incredible job helping our young kids, you know, stay in shape, learn how to play a game, learn the value of teamwork, learn the value of sportsmanship, and just a wonderful organization. But they were there a good 8 hours. Following that was our Reading Historical Society Settlement Day dinner. You know, I wish our Historical Society had more support, and they need more support. You know, they preserve our history. They seek and find historical items and things of value to our city. You know, a wonderful group of people. And in the years we've had it, you know, 2 history books on the city, one in 1994, one in 2001, a wonderful organization that needs our help. But at that Settlement Day dinner, and it was their 33rd, Reading High School was recognized their 100th year as a high school. And, you know, we are surrounded by wonderful schools, you know, throughout Hamilton County and other schools. No school anywhere has a richer history than Reading High School, and it was neat to honor them. We had Jim Booth there, who was honored. Jim Booth was more than 20 years with our Reading School District. Jim was a wonderful athlete. He was a little All-American playing basketball at Xavier University. So wonderful, very competitive athlete. He was a wonderful teacher when he came to Reading High School, a wonderful coach. Then became a guidance counselor and was a wonderful guidance counselor, a wonderful administrator, a wonderful superintendent, a wonderful man. And my favorite thing about Mr. Booth, for as tough as he is and for as talented he is, he's a very humble man, sweet man, a role model to me and to many others. And we also recognized the Historical Society recognized Quality Sports. They're close to 50 years in business. I remember Kenny Conrad and Dallas Daniels starting that business many years ago, and Rick Conrad was in town, and Kenny's son, and helped start that business, and they've been going. But, you know, Dean Harlemos has been something else as well, and you know, not only supplying, you know, good athletic equipment and uniforms, you know, has been valuable to my sister Bonnie as she's run the VYO for over 30 years. You know, with you're trying to fit 300 kids with uniforms, and there's mistakes, and there's additions, and there's corrections, and And Dean has always jumped and served us all well, MND well, Reading Schools well. And one of the things I really love about Dean is when we need improvements in this city and need businesses to step up with major donations, the Von der Haar family and Dean Harlemos are at the top, are very near the top. So anyway, a very, very neat night. Also, on the 1st of October, we had Fall Cleanup Day here in Reading. Darrell Courtney said a very, very busy day. A lot of people used that opportunity to take things to the garage so the city's a cleaner place. We'll have another one in the spring, and Darrell will work on that, and hopefully we'll be able to accept some tires at that one too. But again, incredibly busy weekend, a beneficial weekend, productive weekend for us. Coming up on October 22nd, St. Peter and Paul Academy will have their Run and Scared 5K run. Again, these things are challenges for our city, but we love doing them. It's their major fundraiser. I imagine this got to be close to the 15th Run and Scared, and just an awesome event. So if anybody can help, you know, with donations to that, sponsorships to that, or being there or running, it's a lot of fun. You can run, you can walk, you can take your time, and a great event. Again, October 31st is Halloween, 6 to 8 p.m. coming up. We, you know, ask parents to watch kids and drivers to watch for kids, and we hope kids will dress safely and in bright colors, and our police department will be out to watch and keep an eye on everything. And so anyway, we're looking forward to that. On November the 6th, we're going to have a community tailgate party at the Hafey Fieldhouse starting at 12:30. You know, we ask everybody to bring their own drinks and food and possibly bring snacks to share. We look forward to doing that. The other thing, and maybe the most important here, on November 8th, we have an incredibly important election in our country. And, you know, ask people to get out and get yourself educated. You know, a lot of people, I think, underestimate the federal decisions and state decisions that impact us here in Reading and impact us in every way. The homes we live in, the cars we drive, what's taught in our schools, price of gasoline, the price of food, right on down the line. So these are very, very important elections. I hope everybody, again, gets educated and gets out to vote. The 11th of this month is the last day to register to vote. All you have to be is 18 by November 8th. So please get people out to register. And October 12th, I'm sorry, the next day, October 11th is the last day to register. October 12th is the first day of voting, and voting happens at the Board of Elections. Absentee voting starts that day. There's literally very little, if any, excuse not to vote. You know, there's multiple days, there's multiple hours. I think the last 2 Saturdays before the election, the Board of Elections open. The Sunday before the election, the Board of Elections open. So we encourage people to get out to vote. I did want to make some comments, and I'm kind of sorry that the person who spoke first tonight, you know, saying some incredible things about our police department, is this, and I want to go down a list. You know, this is my 19th year as mayor. I've spent a lot of time working with our safety and service director, our police chief, with our police department. And I tell you, you know, the statement was made that people are intimidated to step forward, which is hard for me to believe in a way, and that we get calls here about all kind of complaints. You know, people aren't afraid to step forward about any other type of complaints, you know, recycling being missed, or garbage being missed, or a car being parked in the wrong place. I can't understand why people would want to be, not want to be vocal about our police department if they were doing something wrong. And again, for everybody, my phone number, which I passed out 1,000 times, 513-509-8619. Call me anytime, but just a list of the things. You know, I want people to remember, you know, I'm 4th generation here in this city. You know, great-grandparents, grandparents, parents that lived their entire lives here. You know, now I have a son and a granddaughter here. We're on to 7, if not 8 generations here. You know, but along the list of things in time, business roundtable meeting, our top 10 CEOs. We used to meet 4 times a year. We're down to twice after COVID. Slowed down. Nothing but praise for our police department every single time. 19 years of meetings. Okay, these are our top 10 CEOs. Love our fire department. Love our police department. Love our service department. Compliment them left and right. And you know, the main reason for us at these meetings with our top 10 CEOs is to listen to them. You know, we encourage them. They have Patrick's cell number, chief of police, fire chiefs, chief of public works, mine. Complain anytime, 24/7, we'll jump. Nothing but compliments. Chamber of Commerce meetings, you know, another set of businesses. Multitude of businesses involved with our chamber. Nothing but compliments. Reading Bridal District, I don't get to all their meetings, but the head of the Reading Bridal District, or president, is all of our chamber meetings. Meetings are held here. I get to talk to Nick quite a bit. Nothing but compliments. The businesses I shop in. You know, I'm a Reading shopper. I don't like leaving town. Business here. Our schools. Work closely with all our schools, always have. You know, my wife's in her 39th year at Reading Community Schools. Here's all kind of comments all day, every day. We have a school resource officer since I've become mayor. I was instrumental in starting that. Nothing but compliments. Nothing but compliments from Reading Community Schools. I've been a part of Reading Community Schools all my life. MND, St. Peter and Paul Academy, Our Lady of the Sacred Heart. You already see the Cincinnati Classical Academy. We've all been there several times to talk with them, to help with their problems. Not one bad word. Not one bad word. The organizations I'm involved with. You know, not a complaint. All the athletic events, concerts, choir concerts, Boy Scout groups, Girl Scout groups. We're Arlington Heights Police Department. We have a national night out. I think we had our 3rd this year. They get signs that say, we support our Reading police. They can't get enough of them. They can't get enough. They walk out and people want more. So, and then, you know, the icing on the cake, if y'all think that it's scaring away businesses, our police department, which I think we have an incredible police department, and so do other communities. In the last 10, 11 years, we're over $100 million in new payroll. That's how intimidated businesses are. Over $100 million in new payroll here. We're thriving. We're doing very, very well. So anyway, as we heard the complaints, you know, and I even heard one comment here recently that economic development has nothing to do with safety here. And, you know, something without money, without businesses. You know, we don't have a police department. We don't have the fire department we don't have the public works department. And all those things are accomplished here, and I don't know. I just don't hear if anybody has any complaints about our police department or any other department or any other aspect of our city. 513-509-8619. I hope they'll print that on ICRC again. They have in the past. rbemis@readingohio.org. Everybody here, their first initial, their last name at readingohio.org. I'd encourage council members, please, if you get complaints about our police department, I want to know, as in ASAP. I don't get them. I don't. From all the lists. And you know, I just jotted this down here at the meeting. So, once again, we do an outstanding job. Are we perfect? No, we're not. We gather to improve each and every day. We're public servants. You know, we make mistakes. We correct them. We move on as best we can. And then to remember to everybody, and Kevin Kaiser always put this so well, we provide the best possible city services with the resources we're given. Chief Edens would love 5 more police officers. He'd love it. He'd be able to do a whole lot more. Chief Owens would like 5 more firefighters. He'd be able to do a whole lot more. They'd love more cars and more trucks and more equipment. We'd be able to do a whole lot more. A service department, again, went from 20 full-time members to 13. Darryl would love to have 5 more guys. He'd do a whole lot more. It's important to remember, not only do we have to live within the confines of the resources we're given, we have to live by a balanced budget by state law. And so anyway, that's why the numbers of public works went down every year, to balance the budget. So anyway, 513-509-8619, anytime with any complaints on police. You know, for people who don't think we do anything, in my years as mayor, I believe it's 5 police officers we've removed from here, you know, that weren't doing their jobs. You know, police officers do get reprimanded and disciplined. We don't hesitate to do that. So anyway, I think it was a bit unfair, and there's a whole lot more to the story. This man says that we don't respond. I could bring it up. He sent me a message about 2, 3, 4 weeks ago that our police department lies on reports. At that time, you know, we asked him very politely, send us any instance, send us one instance, and we will have it investigated, and when it's investigated, we will get back to you. And I think here just in the last day or two, he came up with a couple incidences he's brought up over and over again, but we will research them, we will investigate them, and if we've done anything wrong, we'll correct it. So anyway, enough for my report.
Very good. Safety Service.
Thank you. And I also have a brief report from the treasurer. She just, so at the end I will do that as well. 3rd Street pre-construction will occur this week. That was a project awarded by council last month. They are going to be able to start sooner than we anticipated, and they were able to get the water pipe in is why. So, so they will start to see, the residents will start to see work on there. I'll give an update. I'll put it online once I get, after the pre-con this week. MSD sewer separation project will commence later this month. This is a 2-part project, one in the field house and out to the creek area, and the other is basically from North Street all the way to the bridge. They're going to start with at the creek and move east from there. It's going to be that part will be a little bit shorter. It's going to be a lengthy project when they get onto Reading Road, for obvious reasons. They're going to have to maintain 2 lanes of traffic, just, but it's going to be, you know, a very large pipe going right down the middle of the road. So they don't have that start date yet. We'll be in communication. I encourage them to have regular meetings. So at my request, we're going to host a regular meeting every Friday morning. Once the project gets off, we're going to meet inside the field house just every Friday morning for updates with the contractor, MSD, and myself, just what's going on, where they're going to be, especially because it's going to be a year-long project. Port Authority property, their phase 1 demo is due October 6th, so it's due Thursday. So the phase 1 work that entails is all the above ground work. So everything that you can see will be cleared out of there. They anticipate awarding that quickly, and that work to be done by the end of January. Concurrently, while that's going on, they do plan on having the phase 2 package, which is all the environmental. That's the underground things you can't see in the dirt. They're still waiting on the final orders of an environmental covenant with the Ohio EPA. The major parties are the port, because they own the property now, but Dow is the major environmental holder of, because they were the ones who had the initial orders that went into place in the early 2000s. And the city is also involved in that because of the Riesenberg roadway. We just have to make sure that is maintained open, because there's monitoring wells that will have to stay open, you know, forever per the EPA. So that work, they're hoping to get that bid completed early next year, and they hope to get that work completed. You know, I say by the end of the summer, 2023 is their timeline. So they do have the funding. They received the largest, I forget what the exact title of it is, but they received the largest environmental award in the state of Ohio. Was it $4 or $5 million?
5.3.
$5.3 million. So that will assist with, because, you know, when you're dealing with underground and dirts and a lot of that, it can get very expensive.
That's on top of a 2.3 million Jobs Ohio grant.
Yes.
So we've done well with the grants.
It's sort of related to that. Annually, I have to meet with the Pristine Trust. Pristine is the Superfund site, literally right next to the port site, and we did an in-person meeting this year. They wanted to show me, because they have a new person at this isn't the Ohio EPA, at the federal EPA that's in charge of their site, and just kind of out of the blue, this person wants them to do more testing and a lot more work. So they're installing about 7 new monitoring wells, both on their site, off their site, because the EPA is seeing chemicals that were never pristine base chemicals, but they want to make sure that the stuff is not flowing. The aquifer flows in a kind of a southeast or southwesterly direction if you look at the big aquifers underground. So they're wanting to make sure that chemicals aren't going the opposite direction. So they're hoping now, they're hoping when they do some of this investigation that maybe the EPA will start to ease up on all the requirements. And why that's important is, and I was shocked. I asked, how much money, now when I say the Pristine Trust, these are all the responsible parties that have to pay into the contamination. The largest, I think, was Procter & Gamble, because they were the ones sending, the most barrels there. But anybody that was sending stuff, property owners, they all have to pay into this trust. And I said, well, how much are you guys paying, And he said, we're about $2 million a year. $2 million a year to pump water back there. And they pump out 130,000 gallons of clean water that just goes right back into the creek. And
that's every day.
Every day, daily. That's a tenth of what we use in the city, and the water is clean. And I asked them, and these are the scientists, I'm like, if you guys stopped work today, just stopped work, didn't do anything, is there a public health risk to anybody? They said, as long as nobody drills into the aquifer, no. Nobody would ever be harmed by it. Why that's important is one of the property owners that has to pay into it, keeps a property because it generates revenue. Instead of selling the property and maybe being a better use for the city of Reading, he has to generate money just to pay into the Pristine Trust. So, I offered, if there's anything politically wise that the city or council, mayor, we could do to, because the amount of contaminants that they pull out in a whole year is like one of those little Home Depot buckets. I don't know how many gallons those are, but in the future would come through council, because there would be some upgrades to our system that potentially could alleviate the need for the pump house, which pumps water throughout the pump house basically provides the level pressure so it's even throughout the entire city. But there are other ways that pressure can be balanced where that could be done, but it was nice. It was a good discussion. Last thing for me, if you've called City Hall in the last week and a half, you'll notice a different phone system when you call. If there's a few bugs, but most of those are being fixed. But you can dial name by directory directly. You can get to a department directly instead of all of our clerks taking a call for every single department. People can get directly to the needed department. So it's working out well so far. For tax report update from Brenda, I think she's emailed everybody, got a copy of this, so I'll do this for the benefit of the public. Through the end of September, residents individual is for year to date down 1.1%, collected $1,059,898. Business withholding is up half a percent to 4.879797 million, and business profits are up 151%, or up total of 1.374 million. Year to date, as a whole, the city's up 12.9%. to 7.314 million. Brendan and I, were talking about this. One thing, just for you guys seeing the report, when you look at the business profits, we do like to look at that from a conservative point of view, meaning those are basically estimates that the businesses pay. So they're required to pay quarterly estimates. So while we love seeing the number, businesses have until basically next year that they could file for a loss and get, ask for money back. So while the money is there, we also like to be conservative with our thinking, like, hey, because if you look at that, it's up a lot. But, businesses, have until October for this year to file for last year's taxes, anyone that got extensions. So we just like to have that in the back of everybody's mind, as you see the numbers. Like, obviously, we're happy with that, but you also want to, be cognizant that, these are estimates. These are not, businesses are required to pay the estimates. So she wanted to reiterate that. I think she said that last month, but we just like to reiterate that because, someone could ask for a big refund and we're like, what happened to all that money, But one thing that we did discuss is with some of, the extra is, and I'll get with Sabrina on some of this, and as we get the new finance, is, she would like to see some way that some of this be put into a reserve. And not necessarily a whole city reserve, but almost an income tax reserve, where if a company were to say, hey, I filed for big losses, you guys owe me $250,000, that we have this other fund sitting there where, it's not disrupting operations from what Sabrina needs to transfer, for our, so it's just something we'll continue to discuss. I said that's a good idea, so that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions? No, I've got one. So Water's Act clean. When are we reopening the water plant?
EPA won't allow it. EPA will never allow us to.
I'm very aware of that situation. It was kind of a joke, sort of. All right, moving on. Law Director, no report? Yes?
I have no report.
All right, very good.
Patrick, I do need to see you about the Furman Road thing after the meeting.
Okay.
Treasurer's report already done. Auditor's report, Mrs. Smith.
Thanks, Mr. President. I just have a couple updates. We're still working to get the computer software updated. I think Patrick commented that it's kind of like on their court right now to kind of get some things implemented that we've sent them and are working on. And other than that, just the last quarter of bills. So the first week in December, all the bills need to be in. So make sure if you're talking with your department heads for meetings or you guys are thinking about purchases that you're wanting to make, hopefully planning for 2023, but no late spending in December, if you wouldn't mind, just because I shut down the books for the first week of December. So that gives me a whole week after to pay. And then Patrick and I can do the items that'll need to be done, and you guys will have to approve the appropriation adjustments. So that's going to be done after the last payroll. So with the holidays being weird, even thinking about days off, or if you're out of town, or family functions will be important for that. It's unfortunately, it's the thing that we have to do for our job, but it's at a weird time because we run on a calendar year. So just giving kind of a heads up. I know it's only October, but it'll be here before we know it. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Smith? All right, moving on. Council committee reports. Finance, Mr. Bronner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight I'd like to report that the $40,000 for the leaf vac and box was transferred from the 827 sewer service fee fund to the 340 capital improvement fund. Also, there are 3 recurring ordained monthly transfers that have been processed through August 2022. The first is the 0.05% of the 220 city earnings tax fund into the 230 streets and curb fund. The second is 7% of the billing fee for our sewer collection was transferred from the 825 sewage disposal trust fund to the 827 sewer service fee fund. The third transfer is where it gets into the weeds a little bit, is 10% of that aforementioned 7% billing fee is transferred from the 827 Sewer Service Fee Fund to the 343 Growth Fund. And Sabrina's been busy. That's all I have.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Bronner? All right, moving on. Utilities, lands, and buildings, Mr. Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. President. In reference to, a lot of information was conveyed at the last council meetings, and at our previous, last two committee meetings over the last month and a half or 2 months. We've been working on the details for the three ordinances that came up tonight. One was the Duke Energy easement, and the other two are regarding the city's contract for video streaming services that we've discussed previously.
I'm sorry, I missed that last sentence.
The first ordinance was about the Duke Energy easement purchase, and the second and third ordinances that are on the books tonight that we've discussed in our committee were regarding the video streaming services, which information has been communicated at the last council meeting.
Okay. Thank you. There's a train in the background. All right. Anything else? Nope. All right. Any questions for Mr. Bishop? Nope. All right. Zoning, planning, and environment, Mr. Powell.
Just wanted to report that the work in Mr. Bishop's committee and Mrs. Edchica's committee have kept me hopping as of late. So I've been working on stuff on that. And then also I'm looking into a few zoning matters that somebody had brought up to me, and going to be following up on some complaints, just kind of looking around a little bit, seeing what I can find out, and then I will bring it to Pat or the mayor's attention once I've kind of looked around a little bit myself. So that's all that I have this evening.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Powell? Sounds like a sock hop, though. I don't know. It's getting late, getting punchy. All right, laws and contracts, Mrs. Edichico.
Thank you, Mr. President. On September 27th, I held a Laws and Contracts Committee meeting. In attendance was Mr. Powell and Mr. Ross. Unfortunately, Mr. Boehner was unable to attend. We covered quite a few topics, first being DORA. It's coming together and the application should be ready for council soon. There's no real new updates with that as of right now. Number two, Paul Coulter with Jacobs Engineering is currently updating the property maintenance codes. I did receive a follow-up from Dan Brooks about a property on Hunt Road, and I'm waiting to hear back for more information. And I'm also waiting to hear back on a follow-up about some other properties. Three, we looked over the contract between the city and the school for the field and stadium usage. The current lease agreement is due to expire on June 30th, 2023. We're updating the contract and removing the baseball and softball fields at Canic Park due to the school having a new complex at Hilltop. Patrick and Mayor Bemis have been meeting with the school with school officials regarding the contract and possibly updating the lease agreement should we install turf and a new track. Well, I'll have more details on that to follow. And number four, the city of Reading has been approached by Chris Fox of Black Fox Gardens, who currently has a letter of intent with the property owner of 768 Hill Street to purchase 10.2 acres of land to develop a portion of it into a medical cannabis dispensary. Currently, the city has a moratorium on dispensaries and businesses related to cannabis, and that was put into place in 2017. My committee is looking to overturn the moratorium, but we are also looking at access to the site along with zoning and planning requirements. We would also like to add some conditions so that we don't have shops opening up all along Reading Road, for example. As of right now, the state of Ohio only, excuse me, the state of Ohio only supports medical cannabis, and the current taxes implemented are the state sales tax of 5.75% and local sales tax of 2.0499%. While our committee understands that it could be a controversial topic, there is a lot of tax money that could be available to cities with dispensaries. There are currently over 300,000 active registered medical patients in Ohio. From the start of the program in April 2019, the state has collected over $1 billion in revenue. This comes from only 54 dispensaries, including 3 in Hamilton County. My committee plans to continue working with Mr. Fox and the city's administration on this and I will follow up with more details and hopefully have an ordinance to overturn the moratorium here soon. And that is all I have for tonight.
Any questions for Mrs. Edichico? I have one.
Yes.
This is a definitional question. You said medical cannabis
Yes.
versus medical marijuana. So is it the THC containing version of cannabis, or is it the non-THC containing CBD oils?
I believe it is the medical grade, but I will look into that.
It's the THC containing.
THC
Yeah.
containing, okay. Because I'm sure there are people out there who know the distinction and want to know what we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Moving on, public health and safety, Mrs. Kroger.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the month of September, for our police department, the calls for service were 977. There were 31 auto accidents, 98 booking of original charges, and 131 total criminal charges. And total citations issued were 107. For the month of September, we had 8 theft charges, most of which ended in an arrest. The police responded to several overdoses, auto accidents, which were mainly caused by drivers under the influence, and a few reports of domestic violence. I know I say it every month, but if you see something, say something. And remember, you have to call 911. For an emergency, you can also call the non-emergency line, and they will contact you with the county. The fire department run count for September, the total EMS runs were 174. Total fire responses were 58 for a total of 232 runs. I'd like to congratulate the new career personnel that were sworn in on September 24th. And then also members of the fire department attended the Arlington Heights Bluegrass Fest car show on September 24th. And the fire department also assisted with the homecoming parade and provided ambulance coverage for the Reading High School football game on September 30th. I'd also like to thank Chief Edens, because I don't know how many chiefs there are in Hamilton County, that when he looked at his detail sheet for the football game, there was only one person, and so he took the other detail. So thanks to Chief for that.
Yeah, and thanks for thanking him. That was awesome.
That's all I got.
Yeah, thanked him immediately. It was neat. You see a chief
Right.
on Friday night late. It's type effort he puts out all the time.
Right, any questions for Mrs. Kroger? All right, moving on. Service, Mr. Boehner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reading Public Works Department's been pretty busy. I think they consolidated last month's, this month's report. City crew's been out patching potholes. Mulch has been out collecting branches. They painted the soccer and football fields, replaced concrete city pool and at the AV Fieldhouse. City crews replacing some caulking around the pool, making some minor repairs. They repaired a water main break at 9497 Reading Road, another water main break near Vundars on Pleasant Street, and on Laurie Lane. Roadways have all been repaired back to original condition. The city crew cleaned the pressure line at the pump house. City crews have been going around town grinding and repairing roadways that need repair. I know they did Sanborn Drive just north of Hilltop a couple weeks ago. The city crews have finished the street painting for the year in the south end of town. City crews are still replacing signs throughout the city, and city crews are checking equipment for any issues and starting to repair for winter months. I have a couple of things here. I will make some copies and get it to everybody. If you didn't see it in Sunday's paper, it's a little blurb about General Tool. Not only 75 years, but how they got started. I think it's really interesting how they got started. But I'll make a copy and scan it and send to everybody over this next week. Reminder to the people on Thunder Ridge Drive, probably not looking for a lot of rain this week. I know Lee's done a nice job redoing all the roadway lawn area up there and watered it really well, but you're gonna need to keep watering it so it comes back up. If you don't water it, it's not gonna work. We also have a service committee meeting next Tuesday at 7 p.m. We're gonna talk about the priority street repair list that the service department has drawn up. And that's all I have at this time.
So to reiterate, your next meeting is next Tuesday, 7 PM
Yes.
here in council chambers, and that's 10/11,
Right.
correct? All right.
Right.
And if I could, I'd like to state again, we have an incredible service department that does incredibly good things for us, day in, day out, and have to thank them. Got to get down and look at the new concrete work at both the Havy Fieldhouse and at the pool. Talented crew, awesome what they do with the numbers they have. Can't thank them enough.
Mrs. Chico.
I believe, I know, it's a bit early, but leaf pickup will be starting soon, and I get asked this a lot. There's no set schedule for, or routes that they.
No, they try to follow the day after trash pickup.
Okay.
As a rule of thumb, but once the leaves really start coming down, it's very difficult for them to keep up. So if you don't see them for a couple days, you might have to call City Hall to see if maybe they're 3 or 4 days behind instead of 1 day. But with the equipment we got them, I think that might be able to stay on top of this year. Just a lot depends on when the leaves come down, you know, really.
With regard to Mr. Boehner's comment about the Thornridge grass that they planted, it appears as though they put the plastic mesh down.
Yes, yes.
Down. When your grass gets a couple inches tall, it's a good idea to pick up that mesh and pull it out of there and throw it away, because otherwise it gets all bound up in the grass, and then your lawnmower hits it, and it's a mess,
Yeah.
and the birds get caught in it. But just when the grass gets tall enough that you can see it, and it's coming up, you can actually take that up. And you can leave some of the straw if it stays there, but try to get the mesh out of there.
Awesome.
From personal experience.
Good to know.
Pull gently.
But please water. Please water. They're gonna water, but we don't know how long, so.
Anybody else? Okay, moving on. Recreation, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. President. After meeting with Seth Redwine and Susan Slavey to discuss the most pressing needs for our parks, we came up with a pretty short list. I've been in the process of pricing and getting bids for new picnic tables for Kenneck Park for both pavilions. They're over 20 years old and showing their age. This is something that, you know, is not pressing. I'm sure it could wait till January before I bring it to Chambers. We're also exploring grant opportunities for updated water fountains in our parks and new bleachers for Kenneck Park. And lastly, wanted to reiterate, on Sunday, November 6th, we'll be hosting a football tailgate event in the Reading Pools parking lot. We'll be celebrating all things football before the big NFL game. We'll begin at 12:30. Please bring a snack or appetizer to share and your own drinks. It should be a great Sunday for football, fun, and community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Moving on. We have other business. Is there any other business that we haven't covered yet? Seeing none. Moving on. Legislative session. We've already done the resolution. And we've done item number 2 in ordinances. So now to item number 1 in ordinances. And that is this one. An ordinance authorizing an agreement between the City of Reading and the Board of Hamilton County Commissioners relative to the improvement of Furman Road and declaring an emergency.
I'll make a motion, we suspend the third reading.
Second.
Is it Mrs. Kroger? So we have a motion by Mr. Boehner and a second by Mrs. Kroger to suspend the rule requiring the second and third reading. So we're going to do a roll call vote. Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Boehner?
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger?
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
Okay, so the rule is suspended.
Make a motion to adopt.
Second.
So motion to adopt by Mr. Bronner, seconded by, was it, all right, Mr. Boehner. Roll call, Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Bronner,
Yes.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Boehner,
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger,
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
Already put it on.
That is adopted. And that ordinance number, let me go back to where I have my list. It's going to be number 29, 2022-29. Okay, so as a reminder, there is a request from the audience to have these next two be at least just a first reading and go. I know there's a time frame on this.
Yes, sir.
But I do think we have enough time to do at least a second reading. So I'll read number 3, and that is an ordinance directing the Safety Service Director to terminate the agreement with the Intercommunity Cable Regulatory Commission, ICRC, for video and broadcasting services for the City of Reading and declaring an emergency.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Can we just be reminded of what our time frame is, why the emergency is on here?
The notice to ICRC needs to be in before November. Official notice as written and sent in to meet the requirements.
Yeah, I thought I remembered that correctly. So we can push this out to the next meeting for adoption.
And
So-
potentially have a third meeting on the 4th. I mean, that's up to council, but.
And that is another option too.
On the, what date?
Fourth Tuesday.
On the fourth.
I'm just saying.
Fourth
they can-
Tuesday.
Fourth
Yeah,
Tuesday.
you could
You have to have a
you could
special
call for a
meeting.
meeting in 2 weeks for another, if you wanted to have all 3 readings.
Okay, so we're gonna have that be a first reading only.
Right.
And then, for the same reason, item number 4, an ordinance directing the Safety Service Director to enter into a 2-year agreement with ESP Media to provide video and streaming services for the City of Reading beginning on January 1, 2023, and declaring an emergency. So I'm not sure if there's the same timeline on that or not, but I imagine once you.
Well, one comes first, then the
Right,
other.
right, I get that, but there's, I don't know when ESP needs their approval.
When the other one's approved.
There's enough time.
There's no time.
Okay,
They would start January
Right.
1st, is that correct?
Yes.
so I would think we could tell them sometime in mid-November, right?
Just gives them, to give them a little lead time as far as equipment, and then also, some infrastructure would need to be put in place within the building here to give a little time for that to be accomplished as well.
Okay. Since that's yours, can you make sure we know exactly what they need?
We do, we know.
All right, very good. All right, that's it for ordinances. Miscellaneous business. Does anyone have any miscellaneous business?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Oh,
Motion.
I have something. I have 2 things.
We already have a motion to adjourn.
Oh, come
The
on.
motion's already on the floor.
I'm still in jet lag.
Me too. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Boehner, and second by, was it Mrs. Kroger?
Don't you guys want to pause? Say, how important are they, Mark?
Well, they're important,
Well, then,
I think.
So
They're
we
very
have,
short, they're very short. but
we
very-
have the motion to, we have so here's an opportunity. This is a interesting thing that can be done in Robert's rules. You can move to modify the motion, but whoever made the motion needs to do that.
I'll pull the motion till get stuff out. How's that?
Okay.
Right, very good.
2 quick things. One's important. They, I want to congratulate Shelley's son for becoming a firefighter
Thank you.
in Lockland. I think that's wonderful. I understand he
so
starts out
wanted
as a
to do that
volunteer.
since he was born.
Right.
I know. That's what I hear, so that was great. Secondly, I did have a comment by a friend of mine, Tom Wilkinson, about the intersection of Columbia and Reading. It is kind of, people keep going the wrong way, and can we get arrows painted on the street, was the comment.
What do you mean, they go straight from the turn lane? Is that
Yeah,
what, I've seen it.
can arrows be painted back further by CVS as you come forward?
In both
At least something
directions.
like that, or?
Yeah, it is stunning. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, get through that 6 times a day.
Do you have any of those highlighted signs to go around the arrow turns? The reflector signs?
I don't know what you're talking
You know the
about.
reflector borders that go around the
I
turn on the
know
arrow
what
signs?
they are.
The ones up
Yeah,
high?
yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about on the ground. I was like,
Can
what
we
are you
stick
talking-
one of those behind it or something to
Yeah.
Like highlighted?
Yeah, you need a.
Anything we can do there would be good, because I've almost been hit several times as well, so, I promised I'd bring that up, so. thank you.
Awesome.
Of course, you're assuming
Another
they
thing that needs to be
They
looked
follow
at.
didn't see the
directions.
sign.
Well,
is that arrow needs to come
that's
on
true,
every
that's
time.
true, but we can only do what we can do.
I think the lagging
And
left.
if we can, when on the turn, as you turn onto Hunt Road from Columbia.
It does.
How they did I forget what that's called, the dash arrows that guide you to the right lane. That would be neat too, if that's possible, but.
While you're talking about that section, we did apply for, real quick, SORTA funds. The new pot of money, when SORTA changed that arrangement, if you recall, Cincinnati tax went from 2.1 to 1.8, and then the county voted to increase the money. So there was new monies for streets that are along SORTA. So we did apply for Reading Road to our border on Columbia. So we should be hearing about that fairly soon.
Okay.
And then one other real quick, since we're going, Sabrina, if you will notify, as you leave Vonderhaar's on Pleasant and you're going on to Reading Road, we've received several citizen complaints that they can't see because the elephant ear plants in the plant box. Well, today we got a complaint from the service department as well. And so those elephant ears are going to go. They're a safety issue.
Gotcha.
So anyway, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but
Yeah.
Nothing against elephants.
nothing against elephants, right? Love
Dwight?
elephants.
Tim's got a question.
I just wanted to have Jason make a quick statement, if that's all right, just in light of what some of the conversation I've heard tonight.
Go ahead.
Thanks for giving me an extra moment. I just wanted to take a moment first to say thanks for having us out and giving us here. We definitely understand that you guys are being financial stewards. You're not attacking anybody. We certainly don't feel that way. But we want to reiterate that we do want to be a true partner in whatever you need. So having discussions about what we can do more. You guys were talking about economic development. We can help with social media, graphics, things like that. It's not limited just to video and what you traditionally think of in that way. And if we did take over those kind of things, again, it's a partnership, so there's no additional cost to those kind of services. Apologies, I was making notes. So those would be, obviously, those are something that the city pursued separately. Those would be additional costs that would be on top of whatever other contracts were going on. And I think those are just things I wanted to make sure were super clear and that were considered, was that the partnership with us isn't limited to what we do or what we have done or what we've done for other communities. It's limited to what we can get as far as talking to you guys and seeing what you guys need. So thanks again for taking a few moments to listen to us, and have a good night, and hopefully not too late of a dinner.
Keep sending your information.
Thank you.
Yeah, certainly.
Keep going.
Motion adjourned.
Thank you.
So we have a reestablished motion to adjourn by Mr. Boehner, second by Mrs. Kroger. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that is it for tonight. Everybody have a good night. We are adjourned.